Hello, we're going to get started in a few minutes. We're going to be doing a live interview with Elisabeth from Grid 110. Thanks for joining. Hello, how are you?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So we will get started. We have StartOut and Grid 110. We're partners in the Inclusion Index survey that StartOut is doing. And I'll take a moment to introduce Elisabeth. I'll give you an overview and add anything that I missed. So Elisabeth is the community manager at Grid 110, where she focuses on building an engagement community for entrepreneurs in Los Angeles or the Los Angeles greater area. She's passionate about early stage companies and getting more women and more minorities into the startup and venture capital ecosystem. Outside of work, she is active in promoting gender and equality and diversity in the workplace and advocates for a broader representation of women in tech as the managing director of Girls in Tech in LA. Great. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. Also, thank you to you and your team for supporting what StartOut is doing with our survey to capture data on entrepreneurs in the US and showing the actual and what could have been if there was more equal funding. So I'd love to take our time today and highlight what you are doing in LA and what Grid 110 is doing and the unique programs that you offer and a bit about your history as in LA as Grid 110 is growing and doing interesting things.
Yeah, thanks for having me, first of all, and super excited for this conversation. I know Grid 110 and StartOut, we've had a long-lasting partnership and have supported each other throughout the year. So very excited to be here today. And yeah, I can tell you all about Grid 110, the history of how we started and what we're currently working on. So, and by the way, if anyone is joining, feel free to submit any questions so we can answer those as well. But Grid 110 is a startup accelerator and nonprofit organization here in Los Angeles. We support early stage entrepreneurs and we are industry agnostic. So I think most people, when they think of a startup accelerator or incubator, they think of highly technical companies like a Facebook or a unicorn company. But we're very diverse in not only the types of founders that we accept into our community, but also their background and their industry that they're in. So the organization was founded 6 years ago in downtown LA. And for a couple of different reasons, but one of them being if you live in LA or if you're familiar with the LA geography, there's a lot of startup activity happening on the west side of LA. So in Santa Monica, Venice, there's an area called Silicon Beach, where even pre-pandemic, there were a lot of panels and networking events. There wasn't as much startup activity or any resources in downtown LA or on the east side of LA. So if you were someone like me who lived on the east side of LA, you had to sit in traffic for 2 hours just to go to an event. So the team wanted to make resources more accessible and create a community in the heart of LA. So that's sort of how we started 6 years ago.
And did you, early on, was there more of a fashion kind of tech focus in the early days?
There was actually, and simply because of where we were located. So downtown LA is in walking distance of a fashion district, which is just streets and streets, a whole neighborhood filled with vendors and anything and everything fashion related. FITM is down the street here. So in the very beginning, just because of the geography, the team focused on supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses that were in the fashion space very early on. So if you look at our portfolio companies from like way back when, they're mostly focused on fashion e-commerce.
Yeah, so it's clear that as downtown is really like going through this renaissance, this revitalization, you also have broadened and, as you say, a very agnostic approach. I think one thing that's certainly interesting and, people who may not be involved with Grid 110 yet should know is that as a program, you're taking no equity and there's no cost. So that really lowers the barrier of entry for people to get involved, or people who have business ideas in the LA or greater LA area, to get some really great guidance and direction. If you could talk about some of your programs, right? Residency program,
Yes.
tell people what you have.
Totally. Yeah, so that has always been a big focus of our work, and our mission is to make entrepreneurship more accessible, more equitable. Anyone who wants to start a business should be able to have the resources to do so. Unfortunately, even today, there are a lot of barriers for entrepreneurs to scale their business, to grow. If you look at other organizations or resources, sometimes you have to have a certain amount of traction to get admitted or to participate. You have to have $1 million in revenue, or, you know, 1 million customers, which is really, really hard to get to when you're in the early stages. So because of that, everything that we offer is completely free of charge. We don't take any equity. We also believe that the founder knows what's best for their business. So something that I really appreciate is when founders come to our community and they join us, we ask them, where do you want to take this business? Where do you see this, and what do you want to accomplish? So some founders might say, I want to fundraise and I want to raise $1 million. And some other founders might say that they would like to get into a larger accelerator, like a Techstars or a Y Combinator. So we support founders, you know, regardless of which path they go into. And yes, everything that we offer is completely free. There's no small print, no catch or anything, which is pretty incredible. A common question that I always get is how is this possible? How do you have a job? How do you work there? How do you have a full-time staff when you're not taking any equity, you're not taking any money? And so we have been able to do our work and have a really incredible team through a partnership with Eric Garcetti, the mayor here in LA. So it's through a grant that makes it possible to do the work that we do.
Great. Yeah, no, it's a good program. And, you know, from the research I've done and, you know, following some of your events, it feels like you really serve an underserved community in LA. So you don't see that as much in other accelerator programs. If you could talk about that. I mean, you know, we're talking about diversity and inclusion. And I feel like it's very in your focus and in your business. Yeah, if you can expand on the communities that you do serve more of or address.
Yeah, and I can also go into what the actual programs are, or what the actual experience is like at Grid 110. But yeah, we have been around for 6 years now, and within the last 6 years, we've worked with over 200 small businesses, early stage startups here in LA. And a large majority of them are minority founders. So whether that's female founders, Black and Latinx founders, Asian founders, LGBTQ founders. So there are about 70% that make up our portfolio companies. However, you know, as I mentioned earlier, our mission is to be an inclusive community. So those are not the only communities that we focus on, but they do make a large percentage of the types of companies that we work with. Mm-hmm. And in regards of what we offer, or sort of the experience, so there is an application process to participate in the Grid 110 program. And once you submit an application, the team selects 20 companies for each cohort. So it's a really unique experience where you go through a 3 months long program that is free with 20 other founders that are sort of like in the same stage, that know what it's like to be an entrepreneur. You have weekly sessions that are very interactive. It's not like your regular Zoom call where you just sit back and listen in. You get to present about your company. You get put into small groups. Most recently, starting last year, we implemented a mentorship program where we matched each founder up with a mentor that is in their space or industry. And then something that I focus on in my role, so as the community manager, is always thinking about how can we build this inclusive community. How can we support these entrepreneurs? Something that I'm personally very passionate about is the inclusion part of the diversity and inclusion. I think there's a lot of focus on like surveys and statistics around diversity, but then it's also once you get these founders in the door, how can you make sure that you create an environment that is actually inclusive? So thinking about those kind of things as well.
And you have a the residency program is technically the 3-month program?
Yes.
And you also have a program for, the readiness for funding, which like we all need that, starting businesses.
Yeah, so in the past, we've had 2 programs that founders could choose from. We had the I2P program, which is the idea to product program, which was geared towards very early stage entrepreneurs who are in the idea stage, or you might have a prototype, or it's your first year in business. And then we have the residency program, which is geared towards founders who have been in business for a couple of years. They're already established, but they're looking for ways to scale and grow. So whether that's they're actively fundraising or they're looking to hire a full-time staff. So we focus on those. For our next cohort this summer, we have sort of limited it to just the residency program. So we'll have 1 cohort this summer. But yeah, excited to what's next. We have a lot of exciting things.
Yeah, and as we all know, the world's changed a lot in the last year. With your mentorship program, are you now opening that up to mentors outside of the LA area, since you're probably not doing so much face-to-face, so your cohorts have access to even a wider network of content?
Yeah, so that was a common question that we got from a lot of our founders when we transitioned to a virtual model. So I think we have done 4 iterations now of cohorts that have been completely virtual. And so we've also thought about, okay, how can we compensate for some of the in-person elements that we don't have, which is how we actually came up with the mentorship idea. And also accountability groups. So making sure that we still have that feeling of community and inclusion, even though it's virtual.
Great. And just for those joining in, just a quick touch base. I'm Sandra. I'm with StartOut, and we have Elisabeth with Grid110. Grid110 and StartOut, we're working together on our Inclusion Index survey, which if you go to our website, you can access real-time data of a survey that we actually launched last July that looks at all LGBTQ and women-owned entrepreneurs in the U.S. to show the variance with things like jobs. If there was more funding, the more jobs that could be created, and exits, and the difference there. We're really trying to address that variance and close that gap. And Grid110 has a great program in the city of LA. With a lot of things to offer for, it looks like entrepreneurs of all stage, which is really great. So that's fantastic. So you spoke about the programs and the connection to the city of LA. What's next? What's the future? I know you've got your summer cohort, but beyond that, what other programs or activities or things can you share with us?
Yeah, so we have some really exciting things in the pipeline. If you've been following us, you know that we have actually doubled our team. So our internal team, a full-time staff. So with our growing team, we hope to do double the work and double the impact in LA and beyond. So something that is still in the works, but hopefully we'll be able to share more, is supporting founders outside of LA as well. Over the last couple of years, we've been getting a lot of demand and questions about supporting entrepreneurs outside of LA, and we just did not have the capacity with such a small team, but now there's a lot more opportunities.
Yeah, these are exciting times. Our staff as well as StartOut has grown a lot, and we have moved things virtually, and our programming, as far as all of our panels and our events, it's really a lot wider now. We used to be city driven, and now we're topic driven, so people can jump in and join our events, and we can reach a lot more people both inside the US and out. I would love to hear a few of your success stories from your alumni from Grid 110 and to share some of the company highlights.
There are so many, and it's hard for me to pick just one because I feel like having to pick a favorite child.
Yeah, no favorite.
But there's, yeah,
Yeah.
there's one that that comes up that who is a female Black-owned skincare company that I've been mentoring throughout this past year. She went through the Grid 110 program last year, and I just love her growth and just seeing her expand. But what happened with her? Her company is called Skin Muse. I'm sure it's fine if I share this. She was going through the Good One Time program, and at the time, she was fairly early in her business. She was putting together products in her apartment, just trying to make it work by herself. You know, solo founder, first time founder, and I remember we had this conversation where I asked her, what would it take for you if you got 400 orders next week? Mm-hmm. And at the time, that seemed like an insane number. And she just laughed and she was like, that's not going to happen for a long time. And I said, no, you really need to start thinking about scaling and growing. Like if that's the direction that you want to go, which I knew that's where she wanted to be eventually, you have to have a plan in place, and you have to have people around you who see that vision, right, for yourself, and who push you and support you. And so a couple of weeks later, this was last year in the springtime, Beyonce published her Black Parade list, and Skin Muse, one of our companies, was listed on that list. And overnight, she got multiple hundred orders, exactly what I had asked. And she called me up and she said, Elisabeth, you're not going to believe this. I don't really know what to do. And that was just the beginning of her growth. After being featured, she was also featured in Elle magazine and got picked up by a couple of other publications. And because of that, she got noticed internationally. And so there were some international brands, I think in Dubai, Italy, there were a couple of other ones. And then her order number, I think, went into the thousands within just a couple of months. So I think it just speaks volumes to what is possible if you have the education, if you have a plan in place, which Grid 110 helps you with those things, but also people around you who cheer you on and say, yes, you can do it. Yes, you can get to that number. And that really is Grid 110.
Yeah, does Grid 110 do anything in the way of any seminars or programs for high schoolers, younger kids considering entrepreneurship? Yeah,
so the first thing that comes to mind is a nonprofit organization called NFTE. It's NFTE. They are a national nonprofit organization, and we have worked closely with the Los Angeles chapter. So what they focus on is bringing entrepreneurship skills to high schoolers here in LA. So pre-pandemic, we volunteered with them on the quarterly basis. So we had our entrepreneurs from our community go into high schools and sometimes even middle schools and share what it's like to be an entrepreneur, that it is a possibility. This is, you know, what it's like, and sharing all of the challenges. So we definitely try to look for ways on how to give back to our local community and be involved as well.
It's great. It's great. And you guys are doing a lot of work. I look forward to attending some of your future virtual events. And if you share the URLs and the contact information for people to find out more about Grid 110 or any future events you have going on, would love you to share that with those who are on.
Yeah, the best way is to follow us on our Instagram. So if you're not following us already, follow us. And we post any workshops or events that we have on there as well. Another great resource is our newsletter. So if you go to the link in our bio, you're able to sign up for our monthly newsletter where we share all of the great startup events and resources that are happening on a monthly basis, as well as any programs that we're offering. So whenever we do open up the next round of our cohorts, you'll be the first one to know.
Great. And for those they're following us on the StartOut Instagram account, if you haven't visited our website to check out our data from the index, you can visit the startout.org, or you can also, it's inclusionindexes.org to see that data. So we will wrap up. We'll make the video available as well after, but thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your partnership, and we really look forward to a continued working relationship with Grid 110. Thank you so
No,
much, Elizabeth.
thank you for having me.
Great. Have a
Bye.
Bye-bye.